Okie dokie, welcome back to Lego Potato Can with me, Tia Tangaroa. I'm going to be building the Lego Boutique today. This is already better than the previous kit I built, the Bricklink 100017 Kakapo kit, because it comes with physical instructions. Once again, I'm just going to stress how much I hate the digital instructions. These instructions, one will get recycled in my compost, so they're not going to get, you don't have to worry about the environment. But the thing is, they're much bigger than the screen. I can pull them all the way in close and far away. They're much easier to manipulate and use than a screen or a tablet. So, once again, I just need to stress how stressful it is to not have digital instructions. So, first bag is 3 bags. Wow, that's a good one. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to be making is the daisies and the roses. Now, I'm not actually a fan of how they've done these roses. They're kind of a peachy cream colour. I love roses. They're one of my favourite flowers to give and grow. However, I'm not a huge fan of peach roses because they tend to get burnt in very quickly, especially in Australia due to the heat. So, yeah, look, I'm not going to take any points away from it because I'm not going to give them any points to start with. But we'll go to try to assemble this, hopefully on camera and in shot, while I complain about things. Probably the first thing and biggest thing I'm going to complain about today is, once again, my eternal love of calling the Revolutionary War in America, referring to it as the First American Civil War, because it really was. You know, it was a group of insurgents against some guys who were actually called the United Empire Loyalists, and I realise that's not a very popular name, and that people are going to get upset at calling them that, but that's who they were. And if you study any of the history of it, you very quickly learn that, well, the American side, with very few exceptions, was a bunch of grifters, thugs, and smugglers. Like, John Hancock was a tea smuggler. He wanted, he was upset with the with the Brits, because the Brits decided to drop the tax on tea, which was really only a theoretical tax to constantly pay for the frontier wars that Americans felt the need to start with Native Americans, and the cost of the army and the indemnities that were paid to the British allies amongst the Native Americans who were being attacked by the Americans. It was costing the Crown a fair amount of money, and so they wanted to raise taxation for the defence of the American colonies. Now, it wasn't taxation without representation, because at the time, fundamentally, there was no representation in England. You needed rich landlords, dukes, etc., to own property who then voted. Like, I don't think the Commons in England actually existed yet. So the whole taxation without representation is a complete furphy. And we know that because Thomas Paine was basically the philosopher of the American Revolution, and he was discarded fairly quickly after. Very quickly after after everything went sideways, and was left to die by the Americans, the powers that be, because he was seen as a rabble-rouser. It's actually kind of one of the more fun things about Thomas Paine, is the fact that his body was lost while they were attempting to return it to somewhere to bury him with honours in a better grave. He disappeared. His body is forever to not be found, forever wandering humanity. And there's some people that feel that, maybe that's what old Tommy Paine would have wanted. The man was fundamentally humanitarian. It's actually, he fell afoul of the Robespierre Red Terror and was going to be executed, and his survival in that is worth reading because it really is miraculous. Like one day he was going to be executed. They painted a cross on his door, and because it was such a hot day, one of the guards left the door open. So when they came to collect everybody for their execution, they didn't grab Payne because they didn't see the cross on his door. And that night, since everyone who was going to be executed has been executed, they shut the door and wiped off all the crosses. So Thomas Paine, like that is miraculous. That is a survival against certain death that almost makes you believe in divine intervention, because you don't come much closer to death than that, and live to be giggling about it the next day. Now, I'm not saying Thomas Paine was necessarily sitting there giggling the next day, but he was alive. And yeah, that's a miraculous escape. And he had like tons of things like that. Like at one point he caught pneumonia, and there was just apparently the head jailer was so sure that he was going to be executed that he thought it'd be a waste of time to have him executed. So we'll just let him die. And then the executioner that was going to kill him when he got better and actually died at that point, falling foul of the Robespierre regime. Like, just a series of miraculous escapes that you sit there and go, man, that is ridiculous. How can one person have so much luck? And yeah, and like I said, he's fundamentally the only decent person involved in the whole American treason. And it was like, this is the whole thing. George Washington was a sworn member of the British military. He betrayed his oath of allegiance to the British Crown. Now we can argue as to, decency and, whether or not oaths, etc. matter, but the fact is, at the time, the act that he did was beyond the pale. He also demanded to be called His Excellency by everybody, which, yeah, the problem is this particular hero of the revolution was more a case of somebody who was frustrated by the fact that he didn't get paid as much as officers that he felt he was superior to. Little hint, George Washington wasn't that great. For the simple expedient that he didn't need to be. Like, George Washington was a figurehead. Benedict Arnold was a better general in every single way. He betrayed America due to cronyism and corruption in the colonial forces. He was a man who was betrayed. So ultimately, of course, he surrendered West Point to the British. He was fed up to his back teeth with the incompetence and corruption that he saw amongst his own side. He lost, and ultimately that's that defines who you're going to listen to, is the victors or the losers. However, I don't think we need to, when it comes to this kind of arbitrary discussion of history, we need to remember that it was a very near thing. For example, a Hessian, one of the Brits or guys on the British side, was so obsessed with cards that he continued to play. He refused to read a note he was given by his aide-de-camp because he was losing so badly in a game of cards. If he had been a better officer, a less grossly incompetent officer, and he had read that note, George Washington's attack on across the Delaware would have failed. Like, you can't call someone who wins due to the incompetence of their enemies a genius. Like, that's not how it works. You are not a genius if the only reason you won is due to mind-blowing and incomprehensible ignorance on the behalf of your enemy. Like, because that once again, what if? Let's go crazy here and say, okay, cool, yeah, get it. Maybe the Brits were just as terribly as corrupt as the Americans, so they deserve to lose. Well, one of the reasons why the French Empire collapsed immediately after the American Civil War, or the First American Civil War, was due to the fact that the French had effectively bankrupted themselves, giving money to America. They had sent their best generals, they had sent their money, they had basically bankrupted themselves to fuck with the English. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all for fucking with the English. In fact, I think it's a great and noble tradition. But once again, the only reason America won was because it had some of the greatest generals in Europe, some of the greatest military minds of the day, which were not American, but were French and Germans, were lent to them and paid for by French money for the express purpose of destroying the British. Now, the British couldn't beat the Americans because the Americans literally had a support team that consisted of the best soldiers on the planet. It's like imagine if, instead of thinking of it as plucky Americans fighting and winning a war, imagine it like this, that what happened was a nation sent in the greatest special forces team it could assemble. Like 100%, the absolute creme de la creme, the best there is, got sent in to support a bunch of... Okay, what have I done wrong here? Everything... Oh, no, okay, cool. I haven't done anything wrong. I thought I was wrong, but I was mistaken. So literally, the A-Team Special Forces Hollywood edition of the greatest soldiers of the land got sent to America to help out to defeat the English. It was never about America. We just happened to be the patch of dirt they were fighting over. And France bankrupted itself. One of the richest empires on earth at the time bankrupted itself to defeat the English. They didn't give a squat really about America, any more than America gave a shit about Afghanistan, Iraq, or any of the other places they've quote unquote liberated. That just happened to be the pile of dirt that they were fighting their enemy on, and that's what happened. And that's why, to me at least, it's kind of funny every time Americans get up in our arms. Like every time the French do something and the Americans like, oh my god, freedom fries, and not taking France to war is, what is that quote? It's like, not having the French back you up is like going to war without your accordion, which is adorable but completely wrong. Like, we're talking about one of the military powerhouses of the world. And at the time, they were, like I said, one of the richest, most powerful nations on Earth. And they decided to help America out for their own reasons. It was not really about helping out America. It was about defeating their enemy. And guys like the Marquis Lafayette, who was so insignificant to American freedom that you literally cannot drive an hour in America without coming across a place called Lafayette or Fayetteville or some variation of his name. Like, just think about that. That's a French name. That's a French marquis's name. And he is such a minor figure in American history that I think he's only really second to Washington when it comes to number of places that have been given his name. And once again, you don't want to go to war with you don't want to take the French to war, because that's like going to war with your accordion. God damn it. case you're wondering, it is perpetually hot, in my place right now. So I am not just sweating like a bulldog and making mistakes building Lego, which is kind of par for the course. It's also doing wonders for my knee and joint pain. But, you just put on your sparkly G-string and suck it up. Get yourself a big old straw, some ibuprofen and a beer. And you just suck that motherfucker right up. Because there ain't really anything else to be done. Okie dokie. And that. I kind of feel that these should be offset in the form of real petals. So, let's offset these. So, just making tweaks to this so it suits my aesthetic nature. I'm not sure if the plans really care. But, goddamn. I really am. I got sweat running down my face. Buckets. I'm wondering if I've got a hat nearby that I can quickly throw on my head so that I can see the rivers of sweat pouring down my face. And I'll just have to keep using 57 towels. Okay. And now we want a brown. Now I just have to clean my glasses as they get fogged up from the sweat, so that I can correctly identify this piece. Okay, that looks like one of these. Okay. That is where we're at so far with our first rose. Looks to be a standard rose as opposed to a traditional. As a traditional rose, which, that's cool. I'm not going to get too complainy because, this rose is not my exact favourite kind of rose. Fix it, Lego. I'm not quite that childish. I think, standard roses are nice as far as they go. I mean, for most people, a standard rose is a rose. They're the ones that have multiple petal insets, so multiple layers, where a traditional, more English rose would be a single layer. It's a less dense bloom. And it really is like, it's 10 of one, 6 of one, half a dozen of another, really. It doesn't make a huge difference to the way they grow or how they look. It's just like, I just kind of like the more, I guess I'd say, less showy, more old school type rose. I guess that's, I just prefer it because it looks a little bit more old school. Which, personal bias, blah, blah, blah. So what I'm doing is just pre-counting out these connectors. Since I've got to hook 8 of these onto this to make it long enough, I figured I'd just count out the appropriate numbers, put them where you can see them, put them where I can see them, and just quietly build this off camera. But yeah, to me, I find it very interesting that laws of 200 years ago, people have already forgotten or decided, far more likely decided, that they don't actually like the way they went or the real reasons behind them. So, screw it, we'll change it. Make up a new reason for why the war happened. In the end, it doesn't really matter. Etc., etc., etc. And I kind of get that. Okay. So, and unless I'm mistaken, this should just go on You know what? We'll wait until we get to that part of the instructions because I have a feeling I just have to make another 2 of these, I think. No, it's not going to tell me how many I want to make, does it? I want to make 3 of them. Okay, so let's make another 3. Probably should read the instructions properly, but as I said, hot, unpleasantly sweaty. I mean, I've got a fan going on behind me, and I'm not going to blame you guys for this, but I can't really have a fan going because it will blow onto the microphone and cause all sorts of wonderful snap, crackle, hiss and pops. So, kind of get to choose whether I'm comfortable or I record a video tonight. And as we can clearly see, a choice has been made. Is it the right choice? Is it the wrong choice? Anyway, I don't mean to rave on about this and how people don't know as a kind of, haha, gotcha, you don't know things. It's more that I find the lack of curiosity confusing. Like, I'll admit that a lot of the American history I got very early on was fundamentally uninterested in exploring a non-victory based idea of what had happened. Like, no one really cared. It's like Captain Cook being not a particularly good navigator. It wasn't something, there was the occasional book that I read that kind of hinted that this was the case, but it wasn't. Most people, most versions of history were not interested in that. That's fair enough, I get it. But I was always curious as to why, since the line was pushed, for example with Captain Cook, that he was there to try out the latest and greatest technology from the Royal Society. Why would they choose the very best navigator that they have to test out this equipment? Like, that's the bit that didn't really sit with me. And then you read a few other books, and they're like, oh no, he was a complete fucking idiot. He was merely mediocre. He was chosen deliberately for his mediocrity. Later on, people sat there and said how great and amazing he was, and that's kind of an attempt to conceal the technology while it mattered about how great he was. It's like the lie about carrots being good for your eyesight. That's British Second World War propaganda. To conceal the fact that the Brits had invented radar, particularly good radar that allowed them to pinpoint German attacks. They actually said it was because their pilots ate plenty of carrots, and the increase in beta-carotene improved their ability to see at night. Now I know what you're thinking. Surely the Germans were not so stupid as to fall for that trick. Well, no. But it entered the popular lexicon as an understandable and easy to deal with explanation as to why the Brits were able to win. Like, no, eating carrots will not make your eyes good. Why did the Brits say that? Well, it was a lie. It concealed military technology. It was a necessary lie. Later on, there was no need to correct the lie because nobody cared. And it went unchallenged. It's like vitamin C curing all diseases and preventing cancer. It's not true. And it'd be hard for us to find a medical professional who's worth paying that would argue that consumption of excessive amounts of vitamin C is good for you. But it exists in popular myth, in the popular mindset, that if you consume enough of vitamin C, it will activate, hitherto hidden powers of healing that will prevent you from getting cancer, and you'll be able to regenerate bullet wounds, and you'll grow bat wings and fly into the night. I just hope everyone understands that that's exaggeration, that you will not grow bat wings and fly into the night. They're more like raven's wings. And you'll need to eat plenty of carrots to enable you to see well at night, to fly, just as an FYI. But they go unchallenged because it is hard for a normal person to consume enough vitamin C to do themselves damage. That is possible, don't get me wrong. If you dig deep enough and apply yourself and 100% go harder, faster, deeper, further, you can kill yourself through excessive consumption of vitamin C. It's like dying due to drinking excess water. You're going to have to earn that death. That is not a death that is happening quick or fast. You've got to work at it. But you can do it. But when it comes to education, you kind of can't waste money on edge cases. You can't sit there and tell someone that if they drink excessively pure water or drink excess of 10 litres of water a day, it will kill you. Because they're edge cases. It's hard for a person to drink that much water. So, rather than sit there and warn people of that particular danger, you just go, you know what, I reckon we're good. It's going to be hard for someone to achieve this goal, so we won't worry about it. But then what happens is you start getting people able to enter information through the edge cases, like misunderstanding the nature of how digestion works, leads to people believing that if you swirl olive oil around in your mouth, it'll congeal, and that's drawing the toxins out of your mouth. It's not actually. There's enzymes that are released into your saliva that if you swirl oil, enough fat in your mouth long enough, it'll start to congeal because your body will start digesting it in your mouth. It's not congealing because toxins are being drawn out of your body system into the olive oil. It's congealing because your body's decided to start digesting it in your mouth. Because that is what bodies do. You're a digestion engine. If you put food into your body, it will attempt to digest it. And the body has a large number of miraculous ways of digesting things. And it will turn around and it will attempt to achieve miracles in spite of you. No, have I got missing pieces already? I can't have missing pieces already, surely. Oh, no, okay, cool. Once again, I thought I made a mistake. Turns out I was wrong. Okay, so one of these is going to be straight. Anyway, I hope wherever you are, it is not this terribly muddy and hot. This, unfortunately, is going to become the standard for Brisbane. It used to be semi-tropical, but right now we're staring more down tropical weather. It's only going to get worse, thanks to people and big fancy four-wheel drives. And Teslas. Let's not forget Teslas. They also have a fantastic amount of blame to be shared in this. In fact, there's blame for everybody! Yay! Enough blame for us all! We will have a mighty feast of blame. A sorely underrated manga, in my opinion. Yes, that's right, kids. That was a deep cut to the nerds amongst you. Go forth, nerds, and conquer. These really do look like redone pterodactyl wings. In fact, I kind of can't shake the feeling that they are. Same with these little horns pretending to be thorns. Like they're not really adequate thorns, but you know, I don't really feel like getting into a fight with Lego over it. I'll save my Lego fighting days for other things. These bastards deserve it. anyway, I've ordered I think I mentioned on the last Kakapo video, maybe I didn't. I've ordered some low rent off-brand Lego. Should be here between next week and the week after to make more of these videos. The idea of these videos is a couple of people have said that they find my voice soothing because clearly they're insane. And the long form videos may help them get to sleep. And I can't really turn around and tell people to go to hell. So like, your voice helps me sleep. I can't really go, fuck off. You don't deserve sleep, you bastard. I mean, I could. I mean, shit, on one level that would be extremely funny. You know, maybe. God damn it, what did I do with that towel? Oh, this is absolutely perfect. Oh, I'm sitting here sweating like a pig. I can't even find the towel I'm using to wipe my face. Luckily, I have another towel in this bag. So, thank you, Terry Toweling exercise towels. If I was smart, I'd be doing this semi-chlorine, except I'm not very smart. So, first rules. Second rules. Dun 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 dun. And third rows. I actually am going to get a vase to set these in, since quite a few of the off-brand ones I ordered are individual flowers. Depending on how quickly those kits go together, I might actually stitch together multiple videos. Sorry people with headphones, crunchy noises. And lastly, okay, it looks like we're building foxglove, a fistful of weeds, and I think that's meant to be a poppy. And I just heard a Lego sound bounce off over here. So let's just grab that in case it turns out to be a necessary component. And let's have a look at what we're building. So there we go. I think that's meant to be foxglove, fistful of weeds, and that is definitely some kind of poppy. So throw in these guys, and let's go. I love that search for the first piece where you're trying to find it and you're like, am I an idiot for not being able to find this? And like, the answer is always yes. Yes, you are. Okay, now we attach the orange nipples to the top. Ooh, they're little brown nipples. Well, that was the sound of me dropping one underneath my desk. Now, if there aren't enough little nipples on here to just do this, I'm going to have to dive under the desk and pick up a small lost brown nipple. I'm hoping there's a spare so that I don't have... God damn it. Oh, this really is the Lego building experience, isn't it? Oh, no, found a spare one. Okay, the one under the one under the desk is allowed to stay there until hell freezes over. So, now 4 little nipples. Okie dokie, so these guys and so I threw out the review video today of the rice cooker. Kind of, I wish I could have found something negative to say about it, as crazy as that sounds. It feels a bit rude to be throwing up just a purely positive video. But there's nothing wrong with it. Like, it is a good product. It's reasonably priced. You could do a lot worse for the money they want for it. My only real complaints that I could possibly make about it have to do with things that can't really blame anyone for. Like, it took a long time to get here with the shipping. Well, there's a fucking global pandemic on. How quickly can you expect something to get here? Like, yes, you can be intensely unreasonable and demand it arrive here in a week from China, but that's you being a maniac. Okay. Well, at least the puppy's going to be nice and quick to put together. Yeah, this is definitely looking like a California puppy to me. Not an expert. I'm not going to read the instructions that far ahead to figure out if it is an American puppy, but that is what my feeling is as to what this is meant to be. California puppy. Mainly because of the shape of the flower, obviously, but also just the coloration. It strikes me as that kind of bright, clean California poppy look, as opposed to like the more dirty reds and whites you get of other poppies. Even the famed Flanders rose is not like that deeply red. It's more of a muddy, bloody colour. It also could just be because of the death and annihilation that is associated with the Flanders fields. Okay. Ooh, now we build weeds. Okay. So these are going to be super difficult. I don't know how I'm going to cope with making these. Okay, so there's actually... Well, that is going to make things slightly difficult. There's actually a top and a... Well, no, there isn't. I wonder what happened there then. Okay, now I am curious. Oh, right. I'm an idiot. So we don't just thread them willy-nilly like an absolute thug onto each other. It goes like that, and now we can put 4 of these together. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be cutting and probably posting an picture of them in a, what's the word I'm looking for? In a vase. In fact, I might pause now, go and grab the vase, and then pick up. Okay, the astute and hirsute amongst you will have noticed a slight angle change as I proceeded to make a very precarious mount so that we can get the angle right to show you the flowers. It's kind of the best I can do. I realise it's a hacky solution, but them's the breaks, I'm afraid, guys. This is not a professional. In no way, shape or form am I to be mistaken for a professional. This is just some nonsense that I'm throwing together for giggles. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope, if nothing else, it brings you sleep and peace and whatever other good things can be found in this world, because I don't really think there's that many good things that can be found in this world, so take what you can get, kids. That's what I did wrong. explains so much. He's going to be here consistently making mistakes and correcting them. It's almost like I'm doing this real time without reading the instructions in advance. Okay. That should be more correct. And that means I can get dumped on the bottom. Yeah, look, I could probably read the instructions in advance and know what I'm doing. I also could probably have a better setup for recording this. You know, a little bit more professionalism, a little bit less piling books on an angle on a 45-degree recharging stand, so that my phone recharges and keeps going and won't care too much about the fact that it's overheating. But this is a low rent video. This is recording on potato cam, and because it's being recorded on potato cam, that kind of means that we're up to no good. Okay, so we are now building the foxglove. Okie dokie. Not really a flower I've grown. I'm not a huge fan of foxglove. It's one of those flowers to me that's a little bit too finicky, a little bit too English, a little bit too bucolic. I come from a dry and harsh land, and I kind of like flowers that are robust. Like, one of my favourite things about roses is they're pretty damn tough. Like, you can grow roses in New South Wales, where I come from. For the most part, like, traditional English roses aren't very happy about that, but, you know, they will grow. And that's kind of, that's all you can really expect from a plant, isn't it? It grows. It's kind of funny, like, the reason I have a soft spot for them is because Dad had a soft spot for them, and the reason he had a soft spot for them is because of his adopted mother, who, by all accounts, was not a particularly nice woman. And I kind of find it funny, just not funny, ha-ha, that we have these, enough of these little scars in our brain made by people that didn't really like us, whom we didn't necessarily like, and carve these little wounds in our head that heal in strange ways and leave us less normal than we would have been otherwise. And maybe we never had a chance to start with. Well, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe that's just how things are. People running around with scars on their heads trying to be normal and pretending everything is fine. I don't know. I don't really have any answers. A shit ton of questions, but no answers. Which I was led to believe is the beginning of knowing. You know, if you want to know something, you first have to ask a question. Well, sometimes there are no answers to the questions that you seek answers to, the ones that really matter. You know, I mean, like the big, hard questions that close your throat and take away your ability to reason. Why don't you love me anymore? Why did they have to die? Those profoundly difficult questions don't have good answers. Not satisfying, snazzy questions that can be answered by anything, really. Because the truly important questions in the universe don't have answers. Why are we here? What are we doing? Do we exist to merely suffer? Is our suffering just a form of existence? We don't exist to suffer, it's just that in existing, we are forced to suffer. You know, things that almost sound profound until you start thinking about them. You know, that's kind of a shitty tautology, man. Not pretending to have a good philosophy here, kids. I don't have any answers. I don't have any good questions. I don't have any good fun questions. Oh, God. Like, when you get down to it, the really important things in your life are never the ones that are... There's never... No question worth asking ever really has a nice, simple answer. Like, that's why I say be fearless and ask people